Kings and queens, lords, lairds and landowners, bishops and priests. Their history is written in carefully chosen text, on parchment and in leather-bound volumes. Tales of power and of conquest. These are not those tales. What these are the stories of the people of this land, of our lives, our loves and our fears, our aspirations and our struggles, our successes and our failures. A people's history, an oral history, told in rich language handed down through the centuries, in song and in rhyme, an articulated echo of identity, who we were and who we have become. And the gatekeepers to this perpetual illumination, our bards. Their role in our cultural cohesion cannot be understated. I present to you today pagair, bard to the nation of Scotland.
Right. For auld lang syne, eh? And for the future. Well, hello, agus Key Admira Fadge. Hello, and 100,000 welcomes. It's Mishaheen pagair. I'm Pagair MacNeil, tradition bearer, Gaelic bard, and bard in all of Scotland's different languages, because I love the culture and the language and the way of thinking, the paradigm of this ancient nation which has given so much to humanity. And nowhere is that more exemplified than in traditional verse composed by the bards of old from time immemorial. And here today we are at the fulcrum of the very place that could have changed the history of Scotland and the world forever. Sliabh an Chirim, Sheriff Muir, on the hills above Dunblane. But behind me here is Carnan Rahach, the monument to the MacRaes. The MacRaes, the valiant clan who stood in the front left of the Jacobite army of 1715. And because there was insufficient cavalry support, they took a serious amount of casualties. But they would never retreat, because that was not in their creed. 12 times they reformed and 12 times they came back. And was it not General Whitman, who was on the side of the English, who admired them for their courage, saying he never saw such a fine line of men standing in perfect unison. And he lamented the fact that they had so many casualties. But the poetry of Sheriff Muir will make sure that this event, like many events in Scotland, will never be forgotten. Oh, we build monuments, but what better than from the breath and from the mouth of the bards who were eyewitnesses who lived there at the time. In 1715, there lived in the island of Eigg a man called John MacDonald. He was one of the great Clanranald race. He was known as try2, Mac Ian, Vic Elaine. That's Ian, son of Black-haired Ian, son of Alan. And they couldn't use their second names because they got the postman very confused, since everybody had the same second name. He was what they called a vernacular bard, and he composed many a verse at that particular time, but he was an innovator. See, Highlanders were never stuck in a lay-by. They were always willing to innovate, like the great MacCrimmon Pipers, who took pipe music to its zenith under the sponsorship, the patronage of Charles II, and so was with try2. Normally, the Gaelic poems that were composed by the clan bards were in praise of their race, of their chiefs, of the valiance of their men, of the history of their battles, to help them to stand strong in the face of the strife. But try2 was to introduce a new convention into Highland poetry. It was called allies, whereby, as you'll hear in part of this song, All the clans of the north were invited to stand together in common cause. Even ancient enemies, such as the Campbells and the MacDonalds, in the same muster roll. And if that was not enough, the nobles of the lowlands were to come and join the cause. And no Gael up to this point had ventured to put such a piece together. This is what we called a brasnahag, or an incitement to war. This was a national call to arms. And the way he constructed this wasn't like the old Gaelic strophic metre, which I'll give a few examples of in a minute. This was a new type of convention called aharan or auran, which was symmetrical metre, whereby the assonances, the vowels, would resound out like an iambic heartbeat. So when the warriors would strike upon their shields, they would hear it and it would stir them up, being reminded of the heroic deeds of their ancestors. Well, this particular poem opens out with an ancient prophecy. And the prophecy stems back to the days of the great and the one and only William Wallace. There lived a man called True Thomas, or Thomas the Rhymer. And according to the oral tradition, he was taken into the land of the She-Yakin, the fairy folk, or the queen of the fairy land. And he was in there for 7 years and a day. And he was given a gift of two things: a tongue that would never lie, and an eye that would see into the future. And he foresaw and he foretold of many things that was going to happen in Scotland's future. He saw the day when a French queen would rule Scotland, who would become the Queen of France as well. Our beloved Queen Mary, one of the greatest monarchs we ever had. How tragic her end. One day her son would be the king of a united Britain. And of course that was James VI. But he also foresaw the day when there would be a great battle hard in Achluai, north of the Clyde. And the Gaels would arise from their glens. And Highland culture would have parity, equity with that of the rest of the world, being recognised as a cultural entity. This was Gaelic nationalism, and indeed Scottish nationalism. The song opens out with this ancient prophecy of Thomas's, and it translates, "This is the time of the prophecy to be fulfilled, when every noble will arise from their glen, in wild, fierce anger in the service of the crown." And the second verse, "On that account, every prancing horse shall shout for joy. On that account, the English shall be destroyed, and the French, our companions, shall be at our back. She shonime shiranjaravaran tadaganakain, brasmena manak fiderova pahonarama vertus. Nur yeris gak trainer and a hage glanur, lerun ferek ages gereke, gusherev shakrun. Hage ma hiv na galtak le houndach sachush, gurlion verek shengavar, gaunsesli sund. Bisas en ikair, chigun taing gav gachun, bin a frankik non kaumpi, grehoun cool, the MacDonalds. Nu de year is klandon, no leo en hakarak, na behove her voor de hun kos ben a grav. Look his of na kodak and nors to life yerak, mo goi gum god of gaivatosh garev. The MacLeods. Na leo di campar gan cabal the curshiel, dreimring o canetis nan gorsit nan skia. Gurniers voor ook el de curei grihurt lia, guren crua dollar doa the casagoas gadagadiav. The MacLeans klangele han andrel dan heet sound the sunreik, dremakios kun einders kun tang hushen boy. Dreimrig o Tokyo, signak striok den plua, simak mirak jirak, verdinching of Suez. The Camerons, Gurleon verlev helm, a hek ew en lochial, vier kodag and the varag and the sayak a griav. Id mer chola ve mer kodag glacier konok rohian, shimogul sam rus, gagnak jul tidov shias. The Mathesons. Clonig van an geirlaun hitch train the colderam, another person yed in beard base of Igarak. And now the voa the bin croa the Lord Kalak, Bugun you could beam nur the yed could ferek. And the last verse says, in common cause we shall stand together, and our blades will be over the heads of the strangers. Might sound like a bloody song, but there is nothing romantic about war. But certainly these people lived there at the time and they should know. And of course war bears its tragedy as well, and the Gael, the Highlanders celebrated everything in verse. Birth, death was commemorated, battles were extolled, ancient bloodlines were praised, everything. There were songs for rowing, songs for working, songs for spinning, songs for weaving the cloth. And it was all poetry, and all poetry was sung. See, the Gael, the Highlander, commemorated everything in verse, so that those verses could be handed on to their progeny, to their children and their grandchildren, lest they forget. It was the great Callum MacLean, the folklorist, brother of the late and great Sorley MacLean, who said, quote, "The written history will tell us what is politic for us to hear, but that which is handed down by word of mouth will tell us the full story." And in the second last verse of that piece, Lament to Clan Ranald, it mentions a hero who was called Rúil MacIllinóig, Ranald, son of young Alan. He was Ranald MacDonald of Morar. He was a tacksman, a Dunnuasal, who had studied the art of combating the evil one. And he was the one who took the confession of Alan Gerag's his father before he died, who had given himself to evil, and he had accepted his confession. But Alan, of course, was just the exact opposite, a total gentleman, but he died of his wounds because of the curse that was put upon the family. But in that second last verse, Ranald, who was a mighty man with a two-handed sword, had been killed by a dun-coloured bull the previous summer, and that's why he couldn't join them at the rising. But after the bull gored him, he lay there dying, and he composed a pibroch for the bull that had killed him, and it was called An Taravoa. Such was the sense of humour and honour of the Highlanders, that even on their deathbed they would honour a bull. Was it not himself that composed An Tarav Gerag? But you see, poetry and song was one of the ways in which information was handed down. The other way, of course, was storytelling. And to be a bard, you had to know a good number of tales from memory. This was utterly essential, because every piece of verse that you compose was ingratiated in your culture. There was nothing modern about it. There was an ancient line from these poems and verses, even just the way that the vowels were put together, that would go back to a line way back to the kings of old, like Con of the Hundred Battles, and even long before that, to very ancient times. Gurmag mi mars gag finje fogreg. Minam chato snadush mi. Gna hier gnevnes gun rechtje go yorse. Minam chato snadush mi. Gurmeg ben nuasal anachik nyak na shamer. Gna hier gnevnes sikeri na honor. Ashir kaina no ashlan na khwariadri foseg. Minam chato snadush mi. Moruai achlaun akaun nan kurische. Minam chato snadush mi. Lukrus kin naun nan budyan minam khato snadush kmi cherry na myke sa kikshri jorse minam khato snadush kmi manchi koden antawin bihawak na kostich minam khato snadush kmi Nani shiv suas anan kruata santun yathak edrishlan suashlan huages kumanta skunskiur se shivoiva li fuatainak punyakain Yanen kato usund cleave Liana le magad milagan koig jig samidela snashake da reinimach chail shinur osser kinest stun in your fefri for the agnamors Mark ik zondag nam pinagere kroejak nak chirak nak tegaf kodam nak girak nur go briken chine Va mi juvel do spirit rovor Va mi juvel do spirit rovor Va chow mounskak for the grease betus keeper na faraki Lire kasse chingalavak nura jirigen garavorst Stugun jibragan tanavar mu borst Stugun jibragan tanavar mu borst Saunam shuva garavaniks betutu gan chalakir Astolai before mir apsa iraniak butun chalakir Sturain gu agus talavain muradon Sturain gu agus talavain muradon Seldom karig doch jeles ben gon haier het Jesus skade go heet gul wie ik kellen an jeku Hier alleen gan jees maar bekor Hier alleen gan jees maar bekor Geins nach ju ac an gawd ac an ryk a hygsyn gan gawdach Ca bevoa nach a cael gain Nish mar colin gan llawn sin O'r ein rawd ys tawr y gwain ffolwf O'r ein rawd ys tawr y gwain ffolwf Ac hier ik me siawns yn effet ysgolch y fwr na clarega Ac yn triwr as yn eicin gwn fi'n garig yn creich can Rin a ddau ceicad ar cor Rin a ddau ceicad ar cor